Wow, I'm just crying about what happened yesterday, man. I'm just crying about it, man. I just can't believe what happened yesterday, the whole thing, man, on Martin Luther King's birthday. The observation, the observing a birthday, if you will, about Dr. Martin Luther King's life. And then we have the same date, according to the Constitution, we had to have it, the inauguration of President Donald John Trump. Yeah, the 47th president of the United States. You know, of kings and Trump. I think it's a situation in which we've been trumped out. But man, America's playing the role of a chump. Because what's going on now is something I want to talk to you about. And what I want to talk to you about is just something very basic, if you will. It's a Kingsonian thought. You know, I want to offer some Kingsisms, if you will, and I'm going to use these words to make them interchangeable because, see, when we talk about this, we talk about the fact that some people said that they were going to have a blackout because of Dr. King's birthday, and we're not going to look at the inauguration of Donald Trump as if, you know, we don't watch TV, that Donald Trump will go away. Well, that's the whole point. Donald Trump won't go away, and he won't go away because, well, he's always been here. Because Donald Trump is America. Yeah, that's right. He is America. Donald Trump is America because he is the American dream. Now, we're talking about the American dream in a lot of ways. And the reason why I'm saying he is the American dream is because he was elected by America to be its president. A despot indeed. But you know, we seem to be desperate now to go ahead, some of us appear to be desperate somewhat, to go ahead and just turn our back as if it didn't happen. As if this is, like Biggie Smalls said, it was all a dream. Yeah, it was all a dream, all right. I woke up this morning and Donald Trump is still president. So I know it's sure in the hell ain't a dream. But Martin Luther King said in 1963, he had a dream. In 1967, he said, on many points, my dream has become a nightmare. Well, that nightmare was realized yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, January 20th, 2025. I checked out the brother as he was doing his rendition of the King's speech. I thought it was pretty good. You know, I see this quite often when people do the speech of King, and his oratorical skills were up to the heavens, if you will. And I said, damn, he's really good. Now, he's really good, and I saw all of these people, Republican and MAGA supporters, you know, say those things. But these are the same people who will go back home, you know, back home where King said, go back home to the hills and, you know, to the valleys. And, you know, they'd go back home and then take out DEI. Yeah. Like one of those people I know would be Governor Greg Abbott. Yeah. He would roll himself back to Texas. You dig where I'm coming from? He would roll himself back to Texas and say, look, we're going to take DEI out of schools. We're going to take it out of Tech. We're going to take it out of A&M. We're going to go ahead and try to make it come out of schools in Keller, Texas, and Dallas, Texas, if you will. But that's the way we're going back home. Because, you know, King believed in DEI, obviously, because he had a dream. But, you know, the dream that King had and the dream that we're living in, or should I say the nightmare that we're living in, is worse than a nightmare on Main Street. Yeah, on Elm Street too. And on your street. You probably live on Martin Luther King Street. Martin Luther King streets in most American cities are some of the most underserved streets that exist. But yeah, as we try to figure out which street we're on, we all know it's a dead end. It's a dead end whether or not we're on Elm Street, Main Street, or King Street. Because what we are fighting for today, and yes, we're fighting, despite the fact that we're talking about peace, we're still fighting. You cannot have no justice unless you have to fight for it. And that is the reason why I had this conversation with someone who invited me to speak yesterday at a King celebration. And I told them, I said, well, tell me about your organization. Tell me about your organization. I want to know about your organization so I can know where I fit on the program. And, you know, they say, well, our organization is about peace. I said, dig it. I got that. I like that. I like peace. I said, I always fight for it. I always fight for it. But, you know, tell me where I'm at on the program. Where I'm at in the program kind of determines how I'm going to go ahead and organize my speech. Because, see, my speech and my speech patterns are always very aggressive because I'm a very aggressive person. I can't help but not be aggressive because, see, in this America that I know about, being passive means you don't exist. You know, that's the way it is. Passivity. That's the reason why people have corrupted and co-opted King's message regarding being passive. They want us to march for justice and peace, but they more are so focused on the peaceful side. Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. I see that when I go downtown in downtown Dallas. I see that when I see people go by the JFK Memorial. And within 100 yards of where Kennedy was shot at, we had 3 people that were lynched at that very same site. Yeah, 100 yards. I guess they both were drum majors for peace, if you will. But when we talk about having to be drum majors of peace, we have to realize we have to call it out the way it is. And calling it out the way it is to focus on King as a whole and not that little snippet where King says something about we are all in this together and our grandchildren will be able to live together in peace and harmony. And our children will be able to live in peace and harmony. Yeah, my mother was with King when he said those words. And today, I can tell by my post that I'm not living in harmonious activity with my white brothers and sisters, some of them. See, but King, when he said this, he also mentioned the fact, and I'll go this and I'll take my seat, even though I'm seated already. King said in his 1967 speech, he said, on many points, my dream is now a nightmare. On many points, he said, my dream is now a nightmare. Yes, I will give you some reasons why we're still living in that nightmare. And the reason why I did not speak yesterday was because I was going to give them this speech. And I said, if you want to hear this speech, I'll give it. But if you want to hear another speech of don't worry, be happy, I'm not attending the event. And I said, I'm not attending. Because I can't speak of King without speaking of the prophet King. The prophet King who said that he was for justice. And make mention of the fact justice when we have had a president now who's rolling back DEI. We now have a president now who speaks in terms of being anti-woman, anti-black, and anti-making a living. See, in 1967, the minimum wage is in the same dollar as it is in 2025, which means that people now who are now suffering from what they say, or shall I say, that got, there's people chiming in right now, so thank you, I appreciate it. They got Trump elected, which was the economy. They can't buy those dozen eggs because they haven't received a raise since 1967. We will continue to fight because King wanted us to fight. It's always not a day off. It's always a day on with me. So with every last ounce of breath that I have, I will live the Kingsonian thought that he said that my dream on many points is a nightmare. And I will try to fight to make sure that we get out of this nightmare. Because we now live in America that's ran by Freddy Krueger. And apparently we all went to sleep. Take care.